Economic Survey also brings you crucial facts and figures across various sectors. Also, it brings in the trends of our macroeconomic indicators, which are very crucial. This Economic Survey is equal to more than 100 editorials itself. Preface of the Economic Survey. Preface of any document for that matter is very important. Ultimate purpose of civil service is to help the people to uplift their lives. But by prioritizing procedure over purpose, you will entrap the same people you wanted to serve. The state alone cannot pull the chariot of economic and social progress. That means what? The state requires private sector support as well. You cannot completely depend on the state or the government to bring in both economic and social progress. India must see the opportunity in all these global disorders to reshape its economy, to not only confront the challenges but also to shape the global order by bringing in agile, flexible and purposeful governance. If you should achieve something which is enduring, long-lasting, you have to keep up such a discipline so that you will not get distracted by short-term pleasures. Reject Preya for Shreya. Hello my dear students, welcome all of you once again to my YouTube channel, The Joyful God. First of all, I would like to apologize for keeping the channel idle for last at least couple of weeks. From now onwards, I'll promise you, this channel is going to deliver the most qualitative content, especially for your economics related UPSC preparation. Through this video, I am bringing you the glimpse of Economic Survey. As you all know, Economic Survey is the most awaited document of the Government of India, which deals with how did our economy perform in the previous year, as well as how are we going to do in the upcoming days or upcoming years. What is the philosophy of the economy? Economic Survey also bring in a lot of facts and figures, right? That is why it becomes very crucial document, authentic document to deal with your UPSC preparation. It can be your prelims examination or mains, or to extend it to the interview also. First things first, what is Economic Survey? Again, it is a government document which talks about how our economy performed in the previous year, previous financial year, that is 2025-26. As well as it also gives roadmap, how we plan to manage our economy in the upcoming days. Economic Survey also brings you crucial facts and figures across various sectors. Also, it brings in the trends of our macroeconomic indicators, which are very crucial. Who prepares it? So, it is prepared by Ministry of Finance, Department of Economic Affairs, guided by Chief Economic Advisor. Currently, we have 18th Chief Economic Advisor, who is Dr. V. Ananta Nageshwaran. Then who presents it? Honorable Finance Minister presents it right before the budget. Traditionally, it will be presented one day before the budget, but in this year, budget is going to be presented in the February 1st, right? But the Economic Survey was tabled 3 days before the budget itself, right? This Economic Survey has lot of things which can excite you. If you are a passionate UPSC aspirant, if you really like to study and analyze economic issues, this Economic Survey brings in a lot of food for thought. I am going to deal with every chapter in this Economic Survey, right? Especially in this Economic Survey, every chapter is divided based on sectors of economy. So they have put important sectors on top and rest at the end, right? As far as there are 17 chapters in this Economic Survey, I am going to deal with each and every chapter with respect to your UPSC preparation. I am going to tell you what are the important facts that are necessary. I am also going to discuss what are the concepts that are brought by this Economic Survey. And there are so many catchy phrases, keywords, technical words, as well as catchy sentences which you can readily use in your mains answers, especially in your conclusions. They are very important. You might be reading a number of editorials. My dear friends, this Economic Survey is equal to more than 100 editorials itself. And given that it is authentic document, it provides more credibility to your answer. So you may ask me, sir, what is the weightage? What is the cost benefit ratio for this economic survey? I am going to tell you, for preliminary examination, in my experience, right, you may get maximum 1 or 2 questions from economic survey, or you may not even get any question from economic survey, right? But for the mains examination, it is very, very crucial, very crucial, right? You might have skipped so many editorials regarding economics, but this document paves way for you to write one of the best answers. Of course, by the time you write your mains examination, it will be September, right? That means already more than 8 to 9 months would be over from now. But the thing is, it provides philosophy of our Indian economy. By the time you write your mains examination, it can be September. It will be September, right? So by that time, there will be more data figures. There will be improved data figures. You have to update your data. That is fine. But this economic survey provides you economic philosophy of the country. What guides Indian economy, right? What role India is playing globally? How India is emerging as an advanced economy, right? What are the domestic challenges we have? What are the global challenges we have? How are we planning to address it? It provides a long-term perspective, friends. That is why this economic survey is very, very crucial, especially for your mains examination. But I'm going to tell you, it is a huge document. It's a bulky document, right? So I don't advise any of you to read every page of it, unless you are a voracious reader, unless you can read very quickly, comprehend very quickly. Otherwise, I don't see much of benefit proportional to your efforts if you read every page of the document thoroughly. But I would suggest you to go through each and every diagram or graph they have given. Try to analyze it, right? If you don't want to spend time with the economic survey document, you can rely totally on my YouTube channel, right? I am going to bring in entire economic survey content tailored for UPSC preparation, including prelims, mains examination, as well as interview. This economic survey is going to bring in analytical viewpoint. You might have struggled to understand your basics of economics in your classrooms. This economic survey will bring in how to analyze economics, how to understand basics, as well as how to analyze the situations, economic situations globally and domestically. That is very, very important, right? So without delaying, we shall move forward. This video is not about entire economic survey. If you open the economic survey document, there is a preface to it, right? I am going to introduce you the preface of the economic survey. Preface of any document for that matter is very, very important, right? Preface provides you the gist of it, right? It creates the interest of it. Why you have to read economic survey? Preface, if you read preface, right, it is more than 30-40 pages maybe. If you read it, it will create interest to read further, right? It provides a glimpse of economic survey. It also a lot of value added points for you as well, right? You might have not, maybe you may not get time to read other chapters, but you must. But being a lazy student or whatever, ignorant student, I don't want you to be. But this video is a must, right? You may be ignoring other videos, but this video is a must. At least this creates an interest for you to go through other chapters as well. So let us move on. Let us discuss what are the important things, what are the important points that economic survey makes in its preface. Are you ready? This economic survey begins with, the preface of the economic survey begins with, the year 2025 began with one set of expectations but ended with others for both India as well as globally. That is true, friends. 2025, you know how it went, right? There are a lot of economic turbulences domestically as well as globally. But this economic survey takes pride in how Indian economy managed to sail through all these turbulences and still kept its track record of most vibrant economy and fast-growing economy. So it talks about a lot of macroeconomic indicators which shows how India was able to cope up these turbulences. So macroeconomic resilience. India showed macroeconomic resilience. There are few pointers. There are so many macroeconomic pointers which we'll discuss in chapter wise, but there are few that is put forward in preface, right? Growth projections. So it calls our economic fundamentals as stellar. Our economic fundamentals stood stellar. Stellar means it mesmerizes the world, right? So, right, growth projections, right? For financial year 26, that is 2025, 26, our growth is projected to, our economy is projected to grow at 7%, right? Earlier, it was estimated that Indian economy is going to achieve 6.5% GDP growth, but now the estimation has been increased. Now we are expecting it to grow at 7%. That is for the year 2025-26. And it is also going to go forward, right, in the upcoming financial year as well. That is for 2026-27, we are going to achieve consistently the same rate of growth, GDP growth, that is again 7%. That is first primary microeconomic indicators. So we have upgraded the potential, right? So earlier it was 6.5%. Now the GDP growth forecast has been upgraded from 6.5 to 7%. Basically, it brings in few reasons for that. Mainly for infrastructure expansion, right? We significantly doubled the airport network. Also, growth in inland waterways. These two significantly helped India to upgrade its GDP potential. There are so many, but preface brings you glimpse of what is so important in the economic survey, right? Next. So, economic survey says infrastructure expansion raised economy-wise efficiency, right? Efficient infrastructure will lead to efficient economy, right? Next, fiscal consolidation. Union government achieved fiscal deficit of 4.8% of GDP in financial year 2025, beating 4.9% target. For 24-25, financial year 24-25, the target was for the fiscal deficit was 4.9%, but we overachieved, right? We achieved 4.8%. Fiscal consolidation. That means fiscal discipline, right? We did not overspend, as well as we spent rationally on which is required for long-term economic growth. For financial year 25-26, again, we have set an ambitious target of 4.4% and we are heading to achieve that as well. See, it also makes a crucial point. During Corona times, COVID times in 2021, India had to see 9.2% of fiscal deficit. And in 2021, the government had made promise that they are going to halve it. In another 5 years, government is going to halve it. That is, they are going to reduce it by half, which government has fulfilled. That's a great thing, right? Next, credibility. My dear friends, there are something called credit ratings. There are so many international platforms, organizations. They give sovereign credit rating to every country, right, based on so many macroeconomic indicators. That tells how capable a country is in paying back the debt, right? There are so many, for example, Morningstar, S&P, Standard & Poor, and R&I, Return on Investment. These S&P and Morningstar are from USA and R&I is from Japan. These are prominent credit rating agencies, right? So, Morningstar, DBRS and S&P have upgraded India's credit rating from BBB- to BBB, right? And R&I Institute, right, that is from Japan, that has upgraded our credit rating to BBB+. Got it? It also makes a point that Standard & Poor, that is one of the top 3 rating agencies in the world, located in USA, it upgraded India's credit rating after nearly 20 years. After nearly 20 years, Standard & Poor upgraded India's credibility or credit rating from BBB- to BBB. That's a good news, right? That tells you how Indian economy is becoming more credible, is looking more credible, more trustworthy to the global economics. Inflation management. India has been able to manage its inflation efficiently. While food prices remain volatile, core inflation is subdued. We are able to manage the core inflation, indicating strengthening supply side conditions, improved logistics. My dear friends, when we talk about inflation, you only talk about what is the currency exchange rate, right? What is the oil rate, right? What is the demand? What is the money supply in the market? But economic survey brings in other point as well. Inflation also relies on logistical cost, right? and supply side efficiency. That means from production to the market, how efficiently the products are reaching. Right? If this infrastructure and logistics are efficient, it automatically tames down the inflation. Right? If there is an efficient supply side management as well as efficient, cost efficient logistics, then it is going to reduce the logistical cost drastically. Again, that will tame down the inflation. Right? So, by improving our logistics and making our supply chain management more efficient, India has been able to tame down the inflation. That is very important because these are structural reforms. These are long-term reforms. Just right, managing the bank rate, adjusting the currency exchange rate. These are very short-term things which will able to manage our inflation. But what Economic Survey is talking about is efficient logistics and supply side management. Right? These are long-term reforms. Right? These reforms are going to last for longer time to control, to manage our inflation. That's a good thing. Right? Next, a glimpse of radical structural reforms the preface points out is glimpse of radical structural reforms. My dear friends, when the economy is in turbulence, when the global economy is highly challenging, it is very difficult for any economy or any country to bring in radical reforms, right? Most of the economies, they will try to save it rather than bringing radical reforms, because radical means like rare, right? Which are going to cause immense impact on the economy. These kind of reforms, economies, they'll feel a bit scared because they may bring in adverse impact as well. But Indian economy was so confident that it brought in a lot of radical reforms in its economy, even though they have to sail through rough waves of global economy. So what are such? Some glimpse of it. In the taxation, you all know GST in the recent times, September 2025, GST slabs have been reformed, right? So the slabs of 12% and 28% have been removed, right? 12% and 28% slab have been removed, right? Now most of the products are fall under 0%, 5%, 18%. Most of the goods and services, right? There are few sin goods or luxury items have been put into highest bracket of 48%, which we don't have to worry about much because this is not going to impact majority of the consumers in India. This is the radical reform the Economic Survey points out. Next, strategic sectors. Right. We opened up our nuclear power generation to the private sector. Shanti Bill, Shanti Bill, which stands for Sustainable Harnessing of Advanced Nuclear Technology and Innovation. Right. It helps private sectors, or it allows private sectors to invest, to construct, as well as to operate and manage the nuclear energy generation establishments. That's a radical reform, Economic Survey points out. As well as we also opened up our insurance sector for 100% foreign direct investment, right? Also, the government has brought in 4 labor codes, which are very important, radical reforms with respect to industrial sector, because our labor laws are very clumsy, very complicated, right? That has reduced efficiency of industrial management. Right now, all the labor laws have been streamlined into 4 labor codes. That is again radical reform. And it also talks about environmental reforms. That means earlier it was mandatory 33% for every industry. It was mandatory 33% for every industry to allocate the land for green cover. Right? Earlier it's a uniform for every industry to allocate 33% of their land that they have been establishing the industry for green purpose, for greening purpose. They have to grow trees and whatnot, right? But that used to for certain industries which are non-polluting. This holds good for polluting industries, but few industries which are not highly polluting, this used to cost a lot for them because land prices are very high. This used to reduce their efficiency. What recent environmental reforms are brought in was, now there is no such uniform condition, but the ministry is going to decide, or departments are going to decide based on at what extent the industry is polluting. What is the polluting potential? of industry. Based on that, they're going to demarcate percentage of land for green purpose. Again, this is going to increase the efficiency of industries. Also, trade integration to the global economy. Right now, there are a slew of countries that are coming to India to sign agreements because you all know, right? Anarchic economic policies of USA might is right. So this is not being liked by many developed economies which are once they were very close friends of USA. Recently, European Union concluded a free trade agreement with India which was being negotiated for more than 20 years. So Economic Survey points it as a radical reform, right? So trade integration concluded a free trade agreement with European Union to expand market access for labor-intensive exports. Our labor-intensive exports, especially textiles and apparels, they are going to get boost. Friends, our economy has been for a long time jobless growth, achieving jobless growth because the service sector, though it is performing very well, but it used to create very less number of jobs in percentage with other labor-intensive sectors which are not growing so well. But this Economic Union Free Trade Agreement is going to boost those sectors which are employment-intensive or labor-intensive. So that's what Economic Survey points out. Again, that's a radical reform. So again, it also helps to bring in Europe's technological capabilities to India, right? And regulatory pragmatism. It talks about paused indiscriminate quality control orders that adversely affected downstream industries. See, such keywords are very important. Downstream industries. Downstream industries is another term used by Economic Survey for labor-intensive industries. Downstream industries is one more term for labor-intensive industries. Especially again, it talks about textiles and apparels. There were stringent quality control orders on these downstream industries, which reduce their efficiency, which increase the compliance cost of these industries. Right? Economic Survey says the government has paused indiscriminate quality control orders on these downstream industries. My dear friends, with the Make in India initiative, India is aiming to achieve its manufacturing potential, but manufacturing especially with respect to labor-intensive industries. That has been higher priority because we have to come out of agricultural dependency. We have to move from informal economy to formal economy. That is why it is very important to not only grow with respect to GDP wise, but also create formal employment to bring those population to a skilled employment sector. Right? These are certain radical structural reforms the Economic Survey points out, or the preface of the Economic Survey points out. It also brings in the paradox of 2025. Paradox means you deserve more, but that did not happen. Paradox means whatever happened, that was not expected. That means paradox. The word paradox means you did so much. You worked really, really hard, but it was not rewarded. In turn, it was negatively rewarded. That's called paradox. That's called a paradoxical situation. It says paradox of 2025. What is paradox of 2025? The survey highlights mismatch between India's internal success and external environment. Though India is able to emerge as a successful economy domestically, it had kept its macroeconomic indicators very healthy. It also brought in fiscal consolidation and a lot of other macroeconomic indicators are very healthy, very progressive, but external environment is not rewarding India's economic growth. What is the paradox? Strong macroeconomic performance is no longer being rewarded by global system with currency stability or capital inflows. See, paradoxical situation, that is, though India is growing strong, it has maintained its fiscal deficit, it has controlled its inflation, right? It has also maintained one of the highest forex reserves, right? It has also maintained stable bank rates, right? It is also sustaining with highest GDP growth, though all these macroeconomic indicators are looking so good, why the global economy is not rewarding by putting in more money in Indian economy? Why there is not necessary capital inflow? Why the global economy is not rewarding Indian economy? And why there is such currency instability? My dear friends, the economic survey says the currency instability, you're all saying currency is depreciating gradually, constantly for that matter. Why that is? Because let's say our country is more import dependent, right? If you talk about our trade balance, it is negative. But what is buffering our trade balance is our capital inflows. Current account, capital account, you all know in the balance of payment, right? So our trade balance is always negative because we are an import dependent country. But what fulfills that gap, deficit, is our capital inflows, right? When those capital inflows are also stopped coming to India, you might have seen why stock market is crashing, because of our foreign institutional investors are taking back their money from economy. So those are the signs that the capital is going out of India because of a lot of reasons, because of protectionist attitude of USA and a lot of economic instabilities across the world. But economic survey says, though the world is in turbulences, Indian economy is doing really good. Why the global investors are not rewarding it? That's a paradoxical situation. Though macroeconomic indicators are very strong, why global economy is not rewarding with currency stability and capital inflow? Again, that's a paradoxical situation of 2025 for Indian economy. Next, it also points out that there is a strategic power gap. Strategic power gap. These are very important. This you don't read it in your conventional economic classes, but this provides a lot of technicality to your answer. It talks about strategic power gap. What is that? It cites Lowy Institute's study or survey. Lowy Institute is from Australia. Lowy Institute's survey notes that India has a gap, that is power gap, score of minus 4.0. Lowy Institute brings in power gap index. Lowy Institute of Australia brings in power gap index. That can be important for a prelims examination because it is mentioned in preface, because that is very important. Right? So, power gap of minus 4.0. What does that mean? Indicating that India is operating below its full strategic potential. Means what? Means, though India is a powerful economy of 140 crore people, right? All the, India is the consumer base of entire world market, right? India is fourth largest economy in the world. India has largest diaspora in the world. India attracts highest foreign investment, highest remittances. We have a lot of capabilities which can influence the world strategically. Given the strength of Indian economy, size of Indian economy, we can influence the global economy strategically. How USA is influencing in global economy? Strategically, right? USA is exploiting its economic might to influence the global economy strategically. Likewise, India also can do the same. But Lowy Institute says, as per its survey, India is not encashing its economic strength to influence the world strategically. That is what we mean by power gap. We can do this, but we are not doing that. We are doing this. Given our economic might and strength and growth perspective, we could have influenced the global economy strategically in a much higher way, in a much higher rate, or in a much better way. But there is a power gap. So that is what it says, strategic power gap. Understood? Right. Currency as a buffer means what? Friends, we are all, worried about why Indian currency is depreciating gradually, right? Because we are an import dependent country, right? So lesser currency value will increase our import bill, will make our imports costlier. That is why we are worried. Economics brings in other perspective of it. What is that? See, you all know that Trump is imposing tariffs after tariffs. Earlier, he imposed 25% tariff. In the month of April, there is retaliatory tariff because Indian import policy, we used to import more, impose more tariff on US imports, but in retaliation, US also brought in 25% tariff. Later again, it increased by 25% because we didn't, stop. I mean, we are importing oil from Russia. So that means 25% plus 50% tariff, right? Blanket tariff. Economic Survey says this currency depreciation acted as a buffer, as a cushion to this import tariffs imposed by USA. How is it going to happen? See, if the currency depreciates, our exports are going to become cheaper. That's a fundamental economics. If the currency depreciates, our economy is going to be cheaper. Right? But this tariff imposition makes our export goods costlier. This tariff is making our exports costlier, but the depreciation of rupee is absorbing this shock. It is acting as a cushion to make sure our exports, our exported goods are not suffering in the USA market. Are you understanding? Imposition of tariff is going to make our exports costlier in the USA market. But this currency depreciation is acting as a buffer, so that the tariff imposition is not going to impact more adversely in the USA market, so that our exports don't suffer. So Economic Survey brings in a positive perspective of our currency depreciation. And it also goes on to say that, so in general, the currency depreciation has to increase our import bill, which brings in a lot of inflation. But Economic Survey says we are able to tame down the inflation. Though the dollar exchange rate has been increased, right? But our inflation is under control. Why? Because of improved logistics, improved supply chain management, improved infrastructure that acted as a buffer to absorb this increased prices due to currency depreciation. See, this is how we should analyze the economics. Got it? So that's how it says currency as a buffer. This currency depreciation acted as a buffer against increased tariff by American economy or Donald Trump. Right. It also predicts what can be global scenario in the coming year, 2026. It provides three scenarios. One is managed disorder. Yes, there is a disorder, but countries should come together, cooperate with each other, try to manage it by not losing rule-based global economy. Are you understanding? One scenario might be, right, a fragile world where minor shocks require active state intervention. Right? These economic shocks must be addressed by active state intervention. It also says countries can come together, just like India, EU came together. India, Brazil is going to come together. Right? Similarly, now the Canada is also interested in, striking a deal with India. Right? Like this, countries can come together, absorb such economic shocks and manage the risk. Managed disorder. That can be a scenario. Economic Survey says that can be a scenario of probability of 40 to 45%. It can happen. Second scenario it predicts is disorderly multipolar breakdown. This multipolar world might break down in a disorder way. Means what? Coercive trade. Coercive trade means actually trade should be beneficial, equitable and fair to all the countries. That is why when you talk about WTO, that is the principle of international trade. But if the countries become more and more nationalistic, means only I should be benefited. I don't care for a global order. Right? I don't have a far-sighted vision to make sure the world lives in peace by benefiting other countries as well. No. Coercive means I am okay if the other economy got adversely impacted, but I should protect my economy. Coercive trades. Coercive trade only to bring in negative impact to other economy. Just like Trump is doing. To harm the other economies is bringing in some radical economic policies. That is called coercive trade. Economic Survey predicts that is second scenario where the countries opt for coercive trade. Policy becomes more and more nationalized with sanctions and counter sanctions. And realigned supply chains under political pressure. See, economics and geopolitics, we must try to keep it as separate as possible, but economic policies are being used as political tools. That becomes disorder. That brings in a lot of disorder in the economy, where there is no mutual collaboration, there is no mutual trust. Every country is interested only in its own benefit short-term benefit without having any regard to other economies. Right? That is a second scenario of probability 40 to 45%. The third scenario it brings in, very interesting scenario it is. See, these are the keywords, my dear friends, you must understand. Managed disorder, disorderly multipolar breakdown, systemic shock cascade, cascading effect, you know, right? You might have seen the YouTube videos, like small, object is there. If it starts falling, it falls on the little bit bigger one, and then the bigger one, and the bigger one, and at the end there will be the big object which is again going to fall. This is called cascading effect. Systemic shock cascade. Systemic shock cascade means what? There are so many disordered things happening around. Stock market is crashing, right? The countries are using economic policies as weapons. Weaponization of trade we are doing. There is a lot of distrust among economies. There is uncertainty about investments. A lot of things are happening. Right? This can lead to cascading effect with respect to investment in artificial intelligence. That is what is pointing out. Countries are putting lot of money, expecting AI is going to bring in a disruptive change in the economics. Many countries are putting, every country, everywhere, if you see, only talk is about artificial intelligence. But the economic survey says there can be a 10 to 20% probability that this AI investment attraction can turn into an AI bubble. Right? Suddenly it may collapse. Suddenly, at some point of time, AI might not attract more people. My dear friends, it is not only about how mesmerizing a technology is, but it is also about what utility it brings in to day-to-day life. What utility it brings into day-to-day life and how trustworthy it is. Are you okay if you're being treated by an AI tool rather than a MBBS or MD degree doctor? Are you okay with it? Are you okay with it and taking lessons by an AI tutor or AI tool rather than a physical teacher in present of you? Again, there is not a clear answer for that. There is no clear answer for that. We are still yet to embrace AI technology. You never know. At some point of time, the world might reject it. That is what Economic Survey calls about. There are a lot of companies are putting a lot of money over AI, artificial intelligence. But at some point of time, due to all these global uncertainties, that AI bubble might burst and all these investments might go wasted. Again, that will dump the economy. That can create a crisis which is bigger than or worse than 2008. That is again a scenario might happen of probability 10 to 20%. A crisis potentially worse than 2008 triggered by correction in highly leveraged AI infrastructure. Highly leveraged AI infrastructure. Leveraged means you're putting a lot of money, high leverage, expecting a lot. Right? If you put 10 rupees, expecting 12 rupees, it's fine. 10, 12, 20, 30, 40. You are leveraging, expecting higher returns. Friends, the word leverage, that's a very fundamental economic word. Don't get confused, it's not something big. Leverage means if you put 10 rupees, you'll get 2 rupees. 2 rupees profit. You feel attracted. Next, you'll put 20 rupees. 4 rupees profit. 30 rupees. 6 rupees. Likewise, you want putting more and more money. That's called leveraging. Expecting higher returns. That is what happening with respect to AI. Every other company is putting all its money. They are not even investing in human capital building. They are not even investing in infrastructure building. They are more interested in building virtual environment, virtual technologies, virtual humans for that matter, to encash the AI wave. But you never know, it might burst. That is a third scenario for 2026. This, what Economic Survey is predicting about. See, Economic Survey is not just a document about facts and figures. It makes you to think. That is the interesting part of Economic Survey. Hope you are liking it. Next, what it says is, we have to bring in institutional shift. Right? What we have to do. It also gives a few ideas about how India's futuristic policies might look like. how India's economy should work in future. Glimpse of it. There are a lot of details in the Economic Survey main document, but in preface, we get certain glimpse of it. It talks about survey advocates for a shift in India's institutional mindset. Institutional mindset means the policies we make, interdepartmental coordination, administration efficiency, technological intervention, all these are part of institutions, right? What India must bring in with respect to its institutional mindset to sustain long-term growth. It brings in a new word, the entrepreneurial state. See, these are the keywords which makes you more exciting. You should just grasp these keywords, okay? Use all these keywords in your every answer. It says our institutional mindset should be like an entrepreneurial state. Entrepreneurial state means what? Transitioning to a model that structures risk rather than avoids it, learns from the experimentation, and acts before absolute certainty emerges. See, there is a lot of uncertainty. This is the time we have to structure our economy in such a way that we experiment with a lot of solutions. Right? If there are a lot of economic turbulences outside, it does not mean that we just have to defend ourselves without trying anything new. Right? We have to keep on experimenting the possible solutions. For example, let's say if Trump imposed tariff on India, that paved way for India to improve its internal strength, internal manufacturing capability, so that it will become less dependent on America, right? We have to experiment these solutions. That is what survey says, entrepreneurial state mindset. We should experiment on different solutions. That's what it says. We have to structure the risk. Risk is part of economy. It's not that if Donald Trump is there, it's happening. Tomorrow there is one good president will come, economy will be fine. No, it's not like that. In future also such risks might harm Indian economy. We have to structure it in such a way that we experiment on solutions. Right? We improve on our weaknesses. So that when the order, prevails in the global economy, when global economy comes back to an order, Indian economy can dominate the opportunity. Got it? To make sure that in the coming days, our economy is not so susceptible to the global disorderliness. Are you getting it? That's called entrepreneurial state mindset. Are you getting it? What entrepreneurs do? They encash the problems, right? They'll try to find effective solutions to the problems, right? And they dominate the solutions, right? That is what Economic Survey says. Transitioning to a model that structures the risk rather than avoids it. Avoiding is not a job of entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is always solution oriented. That is the mindset a state must have. A state must learn from experimentation and acts before absolute certainty emerges. Are you getting it? That's called entrepreneurial state. A government must develop entrepreneurial state mindset. Second, manufacturing imperative. We have to more focus on manufacturing sector. The reason for falling of our currency is because we are more import dependent. We are not India. Overall global economy, India's trade constitutes only 4% of global trade. That is 10th largest in the world. 4th largest economy is dominating at the 10th position, dominating the global trade at the 10th position. That means we are not able to encash our potential globally. When can it happen? Only when we support our manufacturing sector, boost our manufacturing sector, right? That's what Economic Survey says. We have to prioritize our manufacturing development. While services are macro stabilizing, they do not systematically upgrade state capacity. Very, very important words. These are not jargons, my dear friends. Service sector does not systematically upgrade state capacity. See, what does it mean? Service sector, for example, let's say you are a software engineer, right? You are working for an MNC. It is all virtual. It does not force the state government to establish infrastructure. to improve its logistics, to improve its administration governance. Let's say there's a textile industry and we make it more export oriented, right? It brings in structural reforms. For a textile industry, it is again agro industry. In turn, it will improve agriculture reforms, bring in agriculture reforms so that from farm to production, the logistics have to be maintained. From production to the market, logistics have to be maintained. Labor reforms have to be brought in. More technology should be brought in. You have to skill the manpower, employ more people. These systematic reforms are possible in the manufacturing sector compared to service sector. Are you getting it? Though the service sector is emerging to be a winner in the Indian economy, but it fails to bring in what? Systematic upgrade of state capacity. For example, let's say you're a software engineer working here. Tomorrow you move to some other country. That's all. Today you bring in some revenue to India, forex to India by contributing to the MNC. You move to a different country. But let's say textile industry. Textile industry is export oriented. It is bringing a lot of dollars to India. Can it relocate tomorrow to some other country? No, right? No, right? Because it systematically located in India, it has brought in a lot of systematic reforms. It pressurizes the government to bring in systematic reforms. That brings us hope for long-term economic sustainability. Understood? That is what it means we have to rely more on or prioritize more on manufacturing sector. Right. Manufacturing excellence is deemed indispensable for durable currency stability. If you dominate in the manufacturing sector, that is the solution to make sure our currency is stable. You manufacture more, you export more, our trade balance is positive. You do not have to rely on capital inflows to manage your currency. If your trade balance is positive, that means more dollars are coming in rather going out. Dollar is chasing rupee. That automatically brings improves the value of our currency. And we don't have to rely on capital inflows to manage our currency value. Are you getting it? That is why manufacturing is very important. It also alerts on state level fiscal warning. It says flagged rising revenue deficits and unconditional cash transfers in various states, which crowd out essential capital expenditure and increase sovereign borrowing cost. Again, it's very important. Nowadays, every state is competing with each other in unconditional cash transfers. Lot of freebies. Right? That reduces state capacity in investing in capital, building infrastructure. Right? That reduces the state capability to achieve a long-term economic stability. That is because of higher revenue deficit, and to fulfill the deficit, the states have to borrow more money. Again, that adds pressure to the upcoming generations, adds burden to the upcoming generations. My dear friends, if the state governments are going on giving freebies, unconditional money transfers, do you think the youth of this country feel the heat of growing themselves, feel the heat of upskilling themselves? See, my dear friends, only when you feel the heat of competition, you tend to improve yourself. These kind of free things will never let us experience the real competition of the world. Will never let us to feel compelled to improve ourselves, to upskill ourselves, to become competitive in the world. We make us over-rely on the government facilities. Again, that is detrimental to the long-term economic growth. That is what Economic Survey points out. Next, it also alerts on cost of capital. Cost of capital means if the investment has to come into India, we have to pay the interest, right? Got it? If the capital is coming seamlessly, we don't have to pay so much of interest. But we have to borrow and invest. That's a huge thing. It says India's high cost of capital is a structural outcome of running persistent current account deficit. India must transform into these keywords are very important. Remember this. India must transform into a surplus generating economy to lower this cost durability. It says, see, we just said our capital inflow is reducing, right? global investors are not showing much of interest in Indian economy. There can be a number of reasons, but we should not blame them. Since they are not investing money, our cost of capital is increasing because we have to borrow money from somewhere. Got it? That reduces the investment ability in Indian economy. It says it is our mistake. You cannot blame foreign investors. Why? Because we have from long time we are running in a current account deficit. We never tried or we never made any radical transformation to bridge the gap of our current account deficit. We never made a radical reform so that our economy becomes more export oriented than import oriented. Till you remain import oriented economy, you always face a deficiency of forex, and you over rely on the capital inflows. Economic survey says it is our structural outcome. It is the outcome of our economic structure. Got it? That's what it says. India has to transform into surplus generating economy. Surplus generating economy. Note this point. Surplus generating economy. We have to not only produce for local market, we have to produce for global market. Surplus. Export more, earn more dollars. Who stabilizes your economy? Who will destabilize your currency? Right? You will not be relied on the foreign capital. That's all, right? That is what it says. We have to reform into a surplus generating economy to lower this cost durability. Got it? So when you bring in more forex, automatically the cost will come down. Cost of capital will come down because right, currency depreciates, the value of dollar against currency increases. If you have to borrow from outside, we have to pay more because value of dollar increased because of depreciated currency. Make sure your current account deficit is bridged. Right? You have current account surplus. That balances your currency value against dollar, strengthens the currency against dollar. Then if you have to bring in the capital from outside, the capital is not that much costlier because currency is stable. Understood? That is the idea. We have to become surplus generating economy to manage our currency as well as to lower our cost of capital. Understood? Right. And last few points before I wind up this discussion about Economic Survey Preface. It provides strategic mantra for Vikasit Bharat. Vikasit Bharat, we want to see a developed India by 2047. Few points, there are so many others, but few points mentioned in the preface. Strategic sobriety. See, these are the keywords. You should just, like a sponge, you should absorb it instantly. Strategic sobriety. Sober. Who is sober? Right? Who has a balanced mind? Who has a balanced mind? That is called sober. Who is balanced? Stable. Right? Who is forward looking? Who is rational? Who is intelligent? Sober. That is how our economy should be. Right? It should not be reactionary. It should be sober. Come what may, whatever might be happening in the global economy, our economy must maintain a stable mindset. Right? Stable economic policies. That's what it says. Strategic sobriety. The appropriate stands for 2026, prioritizing domestic growth while building shock absorbing buffers, redundancy and liquidity. Got it? Again and again, we should not be facing the same set of problems. It's called redundancy. Right? We have to maintain such economic policies which are, which can absorb this external shocks. Got it? We also have to grow. It's not only about fixing the problems. We have to also think about future. That's why it says we have to prioritize domestic growth while building shock absorbing buffers. We have to observe the economic shocks as well as we have to focus on domestic growth. While we are confronting the economic shocks, we should not, get distracted from our domestic growth. That's called sobriety. Strategic sobriety. Strategic sobriety means while we develop shock absorbing capabilities to address the economic shock, global economic shocks, we also have to focus on domestic growth. Understood? Strategic sobriety. The marathon and sprint. Economic survey says India has to run both the marathon and sprint. Marathon is for long term, 42 kilometers. You won't run in 100 kilometer per hour speed. I'm just giving a number. I'm not sure what is the highest speed a man can run. Sprint is like 100 meters in 8 seconds, 8 to 9 seconds. Right? You just run as fast as possible and you end it. Right? India has to run both sprint and a marathon. What does it mean? India must run the marathon as if it were a sprint. India must run a marathon as if it were a sprint. Beautiful statement. I loved it much. Pursuing long-term structural goals with immediate agility. Friends, we don't have much time. You cannot take forever to finish your marathon. Marathon means achieving long-term goals. Marathon means achieving long-term goals. Okay, they are long-term goals. Let them take their own time. 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. No, the world is moving very fast. It is moving very, very fast. And the global economy is transforming in such a way that it is becoming more and more destructive. As we discussed earlier, paradox of 2025, global economy is not rewarding strong economies. It is becoming more and more coercive. The strong economies are trying to dismantle the weaker economies, overpower the weaker economies. Under such circumstances, we cannot take forever to achieve our long-term growth. We have to run a marathon like a sprint. We have to run a marathon like a sprint. We cannot wait forever. We have to speed up our reforms. Right? We have to make sure our reforms are agile. Agile means strong, quick, planned, efficient, target-oriented. Got it? So, we have to run a marathon like a sprint. India, we don't have, because we also have a demographic dividend window. Whatever we have to achieve in this window. Once the population becomes aged, we tend to lose this energy that we are having now. Understood? As well as Western economy is getting dismantled because the countries are losing the trust. They are not as strong. They are not having as strong bond as they had 20, 30 years before. Now the Western economy is looking towards Asian economies. Right? That is where the world is moving towards India. India is den of consumers. India is den of skill set. India is den of resources. India is den of working labor, cheap working labor. Engaged employment generation is happening in India. India is also maintaining a stable political stability, economical stability. That is where the world is looking for. This is the right time to make sure our long-term economic goals are achieved in a faster pace. That is what it says. We have to run a marathon like a sprint. These are very important keywords. It also brings in very popular one which might have been circulated across I'm sorry. Kathopanishad, a shloka from Kathopanishad. In the Kathopanishad, Yama's message, it quotes Yama's message in Kathopanishad. It says the message is timeless. So I'm not good at reciting shlokas, so I am bringing you gist of it. It brings in two words, Shreya and Preya. Preya is those things which we do it for short-term comforts. Preya are those things which we do for short-term comforts or short-term happiness. Shreya are those things which we do it for long-term growth, long-term prosperity. Right? It says, invoking Kathopanishad, the survey urges the nation to choose Shreya, the enduring good, also called long-term resilience, over Preya, fleeting comfort or quick fixes. The right word it uses is, we have to maintain delayed gratification. Delayed gratification. Delayed gratification means we have to have a future plan. We have to plan what and how we should be in the future, that is 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line. For that, what are the measures that you have to make sure to implement in the current times? It is for the nation that they're saying. You can, relate it with freebies culture, politicization of economic policies. Those are very short-sighted. But our economy must progress by looking at futuristic goals, not prayer. Also, the global opportunities, global partnerships. That's what India did. Though America was pressurizing India to come out of trade with Russia, India did not. Just to make sure in the short term to keep USA happy, we could not lose our long-time friendship with Russia, right? I am trying to relate this quote with some instances. Economic Survey says, nation must think about long-term prosperity, enduring prosperity, rather than short-term pleasures. My dear friends, it also applies to each one of us. Each one of us, if you should achieve something which is enduring, long-lasting, you have to keep up such a discipline so that you will not get distracted by short-term pleasures. Reject Preya for Shreya. Shreya is not Shreya Saran. It is Sanskrit Shreya. Shreya, right? Long-term, enduring or long-term prosperity. Right? So you can relate this quote to n number of things. Okay. And last thing, it has a message to our bureaucracy. It has a message to our administration. For a long time, the administration is more focused on the process than the purpose. Right? Purpose is to bring in welfare, bring in efficiency, bring in development. But our bureaucracy, our administration, by focusing more on the procedure, it is failing in achieving what it had to achieve. Rather than it is working as a detrimental to its goals. You might have seen, right? For getting any job done in any government office, rather than the purpose, the procedure is important. Getting it signed by someone, getting, we are moving towards multiple hierarchies, getting approval from XYZ, you should keep on waiting and waiting and waiting. Economic Survey says we have to, it provides a warning to avoid a catch-22 of mistaking procedure for purpose. Catch-22 situation. Catch-22 means you tend to do something, but you do exactly opposite of it. You tend to do something. You want to achieve something, but you end up in doing exactly opposite of it. Catch-22 situation. It warns the bureaucracy or administration. It says, do not mistake procedure with purpose. Right? Ensuring the administrative reflexes serve national resilience. Right? Whatever the administration brings in today, it helps to build a national resilience. So, it has a message for the administration to prioritize purpose over procedure. If you give over importance on the procedure without understanding the purpose, it can work detrimental. It says, Economic Survey Preface says, it will entrap the same people you want to serve. Ultimate purpose of civil service is to help the people to uplift their lives. But by prioritizing procedure over purpose, you will entrap the same people you wanted to serve. That is what Economic Survey says. It's a catch-22 situation. Got it? So there are so many keywords in this preface. I hope or I assume this glimpse of Economic Survey brought in a lot of interest in you to read the document, to understand what is there inside. Right? So, and there are some interesting sentences or lines in this preface which readily you can use them in your mains answers. There are so many, but I am mentioning two of them. Look at this. The state alone cannot pull the chariot of economic and social progress. The state alone cannot pull the chariot of economic and social progress. That means what? The state requires private sector support as well. You cannot completely depend on the state or the government to bring in both economic and social progress. Of course, social welfare is the job of government, but it has to be supplemented with private sector support. Got it? This is the sentence you can use. How private and public must cooperate each other to bring in social and economic progress. This is a beautiful sentence. So it continues to say there is a need for deeper system level institutional capacity. Read it slowly. There is a need for deeper system level institutional capacity, including capable state and a private sector. We have to build in deep institutional capabilities, includes both private and state, that understands that this phase of India's rise is not merely commercial but also geopolitical in its implications. Got it? Economic reforms, economic development is not merely commercial, it is also having a geopolitical importance. The world respects the rich and the might. That is true. We are seeing it. Nobody is blinking an eye. Nobody is, saying anything against Donald Trump. The world is, just looking as if it is not, nothing is happening. Only when it comes to their territory, countries are talking about it. Otherwise, no. So, we need to have deep institutional capabilities with the cooperation of both efficient state as well as private sector, because the phase of growth that India is having now is not only mere commercial, it is also having a geopolitical importance. That is one beautiful statement. And next statement. These are two different statements. Okay. Next, a possible eruption of multiple global crises, which presents an opportunity for India to play a meaningful role in shaping the global order. See, every problem is an opportunity. You have seen this in COVID times, right? It pushed India to come up with its own vaccine. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened in India. That helped to bring in our own efficiency, our capabilities, so that we can address the challenge independently and more effectively. That is what economic services. There can be multiple global crises. You can expect. But they present an opportunity for India to play a meaningful role in shaping the global order. Economic survey is not only saying that we have to protect our economy. It is saying we can shape the global order. Right? We can become global leaders. Every crisis provides an opportunity for a leader to emerge. If you talk about history, look at every leader. He has emerged or she has emerged from a crisis itself. That is the kind of opportunity he is having. Shaping the global order that emerges necessitates the most agile, flexible, very important word, agile, flexible, purposeful governance. Beautiful word. It helps us to bring in agile, flexible, purposeful governance. Purposeful governance. Our governance must focus on purpose, not procedures. Got it? That India has ever been called upon to muster since its independence. Since its independence, this kind of opportunity has never come to India. India must see the opportunity in all these global disorders to reshape its economy, to not only confront the challenges, but also to shape the global order by bringing in agile, flexible, and purposeful governance. My dear friends, that's the beauty of economic survey. Right? It makes you to think. It makes you to learn a lot of new things. It also helps you to understand not only economic statistics, but also the philosophy of Indian economy. So in the coming videos, I am going to bring you all the chapters of economic survey in a discrete manner, so that you can have the takeaways specific to the prelims, specific to the mains, right? Also, I will also try, based on your responses, I will also try to frame some important questions from prelims, from economic survey, and try to answer them as well. Look forward for a lot more exciting videos from the Joyful God YouTube channel. And thank you for watching. All the best. Don't forget to share with your friends. Also provide your feedback so that I can learn, I can improvise, I can bring in the much better content to you. Also, don't forget to join my Telegram channel. The link which is provided in the description below this video. You can also take this PDF, whatever the PDF I am teaching in the video, you can take the PDF or get the access to the PDF in my Telegram channel. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best for your preparation. Good luck.